Hello, epic entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 229, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes over at tashcorbin.com/229. And you're going to want to write that number down because this is a special Spotlight Series interview with the one and only Tammy Guest. Tammy is the creator of NatX, which is a yearly conference for naturepreneurs. It's called the Naturepreneur Experience, and it's held on the Gold Coast each year. Just like me with the Heart Centered Business Conference, Tammy has had to adjust her conference as a result of the COVID crisis that has been happening around the world. And Tammy is an epic conference creator. NatX in 2021 is going to be a hybrid conference so that people who aren't able to travel from around the world are able to attend digitally. Now, we didn't talk about any of that with Tammy because it was all before we were realizing how long the COVID thing was going to be going on for. But I wanted to mention that because when you listen to who Tammy is, what she talks about, and the epic opportunities and experiences that she creates, you probably want to come to NatX. So I want to reassure you, you don't have to be physically in the room to experience all the awesomeness that Tammy curates as an event organizer. Now, the main focus of our interview was the new opportunities that are available for online business. And we dived, dip, dodged, and dived and ducked into so many different topics, but what was woven throughout this interview was the heart that Tammy brings to her business and the joy that she finds in supporting people to succeed in the online business space, especially. And I love and adore her. Can you tell from this introduction? I'm going to leave it there. Remember, tashcorbin.com/229 for the show notes. And let's jump into this gorgeous interview. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Spotlight series. I'm joined today by the amazing Tammy Guest. She is the founder of the Naturepreneur movement, and she's also a fellow event organizer, as she is the beauty behind NatX, which happens on the Gold Coast each year. And we might have some changes to the way that in-person events are run, but NatX has an amazing reputation. Plus, it also had a ball pit this year, so
it did have a ball pit.
It's so much fun. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey Tash, nice to talk to you.
Yay, I love it. Now, do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about how you practically and tangibly support naturepreneurs?
Yeah, so I help nuts, herbies and prackies, which is our nice way of essentially saying very important things like practitioners in business. And I help them with business and mindset. And it was something that we didn't get as we were taught in our qualifications. And I saw such a gaping hole and a gaping need in my life when I started practice about a decade ago. And it's just rolled from there, and I help with online programs through retreats and through NatX, the experience that we have on the Gold Coast.
So amazing. And I think that more than ever, with everything that's happening in the world right now, we are seeing this move to online delivery and online marketing and things that weren't necessarily mainstream ways of operating and business and all those sorts of things are all of a sudden becoming the natural way of doing things. So to kick us off, I'd love to know from you, like, what do you see as the opportunity that exists for people, and particularly in the naturepreneur space, in terms of online and access to basically the world?
Well, I'm like you. I've seen the opportunity coming for years, and it's kind of really funny because it feels like everyone's just catching up. It's because there's only so long that we've been banging on about it. Like, here's an opportunity. Here we can connect with people. Our people are spending so much time on computers anyway. Why not be there? Oh, here they are on social media. Why not be there? Yeah. And the beauty for natural health practitioners is that it's really becoming such a an obvious space for doctors to get into telehealth, that it now is in the market that telehealth is a thing. So it's a completely normal thing for people to have consultations online with any of their medical providers, and therefore natural health providers as well. So there's a big opportunity for that. I really think there's a really great opportunity to make mistakes right now, especially in those types of spaces and places, because the technology is only just catching up. And just before we were talking about some of the systems that are getting their security online and having so many more people on them. And it's a time where everyone's expecting little blips in the tech. And so it's a great opportunity to experiment, especially if you've been too scared of it before.
Yeah.
And I think the third one is that there is, and I mean, we've been banging on about it for a while, and the space of sharing your knowledge and sharing information. People are just hankering for new information and new ways of absorbing information. And they've got so much more time at the moment that I've even bought courses, I've bought sign language courses, I've bought other courses. I'm doing my yoga online every morning. And the market and our potential clients are feeling the same. And so that it comes to that 3 o'clock kind of hit, and we're all like, what shall we cook for dinner? Nutritionists are in the perfect place to be able to share. So I really think there's 3 really big ways in which there's opportunities that we can help right now.
Absolutely. Now, I want to pitch to you something that I hear a lot from people, particularly I think in the health practitioner space and people who maybe are healers or in that space as well. And that is this resistance to marketing themselves and selling themselves. One of the most common things I hear from people is, I just want to do my work and be of service. I don't want to spend my time marketing myself, or I want my work to speak for itself. I don't want to have to speak for me. So what would you say to those people who are still in a little bit of resistance?
Well, that's very good in your own office by yourself.
Yeah.
But we don't live in an office by ourselves, and your job that you trained as was to help human bodies. And there's this other interesting thing that you weren't trained in, is to get the human body in the door. And to be able to get a human body in the door in the world of business is actually marketing. That's what it's about. Yeah. And it's all good and well to know absolutely everything about the human body and its cells and the way that somebody's mind functions and the way their emotions function and how you can optimize and help that particular body. But you need to get the body in the door. And the only way you can get the body in the door is get enough eyes on what you do. And that is marketing.
Absolutely. My favorite thing to say for people in that space is, yeah, there is a world that exists where you just work on, helping customers and you don't do any marketing. And that is called having a job.
That's right.
So that, for all of us who want to have a business and we want to be entrepreneurs, there's a reason, there's a benefit to being the entrepreneur. And that also therefore requires us to learn those skills in sales and marketing so that we can have those things that we think that having a business will give us. So yeah,
absolutely.
That's so much. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a pivot, because one of the things that I love about what you do, and one of the reasons why NADX is so amazingly successful, is that you bring the community together in collaboration and conversation rather than competition, pyramid structure. Let's all clamber over top of each other to be number one of what? I don't really know. But anyway, so why do you see collaboration and bringing the community together as such a critical part of moving this whole industry forward?
Because that's how to do it. The opposite of that is tearing the industry down. And the unfortunate thing that's specific to our industry is that we aren't governed by one particular association. We aren't governed by one voice. And I really feel like entrepreneurship is where we can have one voice, where we can unite as one in the mission of helping more and more people through natural health means. And every single one of us actually has that in common. So there isn't any reason to be against somebody else, because they've actually got the exact same mission as you. And when we work together and collaborate, there's going to be multiple voices enabling the same message.
Yeah.
And not everybody's ever going to hear it in the way that they need to just from one voice. They're going to have to hear the nuances over and over again. I use this example when my hubby Murray, he runs our retreat programs with us together, and I was banging on about magnesium for I don't know how long for his cramps in his legs and feet, and like literally years. And there's only so many times that I could give him the science of it, and then I could give him the, what I knew about the human body, and then what I knew about how you could get it in food or which particular types. Like I did every single version of what I thought would motivate him to take it. And then he listened to some podcast by some completely different person, and he associated it with his mountain bike riding. And then all of a sudden, that was the time that was exactly when the penny dropped for him. Yep. And I really feel like that's what collaboration really looks like, that we all have our unique voice, and kind of creating a chorus so that the right person needs to hear it at the right way in the right time for them to actually choose to change. Yeah.
That is absolutely beautiful. And, that is talking about a lot the benefits to humanity and to our clients and to the industry. What about at the more micro level, like as a practitioner, being part of a community of other like-minded people? What are some of the benefits for people to take this approach for them?
Yeah, well, what I really love when I first started out in practice, I was in my practice was a multimodality clinic, a little shop front on the high street, and there was a GP practice across the road. And I was starting to see a lot of the clients from the GP and her patients. And then she came over and she said, I have all of these tools in my tool belt, but I don't have the tools that you have. And it does take a village. It does take a team to get every single tool that's available. And I don't want to have to learn to use those tools. I've got my tools. I know how to use them. You've got your tools. You know how to use them. And together, we're going to create a much better opportunity for these people to heal than me trying to do my stuff by myself and you trying to do your stuff by yourself. And it was so true. There is so many different versions of being a practitioner. And if you are working with another practitioner, if you're working in collaboration with somebody, then there is some real, it's like a catalyst. There's the two of them are better than working alone. Yeah. And it's not only for the benefits of your clients, but also for the benefits of your bank balance. Yeah. Not all of us can find all of the people all of the time. And there's just so many people out there. The statistics are so bad with chronic conditions that even at our maxed out, we still couldn't help all of the people who have chronic conditions on the planet. So we have to be there to be able to show up for who we need to show up for, and then benefit by noticing when we're not the right person or we don't have quite the right tools, and have a nice group of people that we can draw on and enable them to be looked after, and then the reciprocal happens. I love the rule of reciprocity, and I see it all the time with the people that the practitioners that I help. As soon as they start talking to somebody else, they're like, oh, you, that? Excellent. I got all these people that need to come and see you because I can't help them with that particular thing. Yeah, I love that way that it works.
I love it. I also think from a business and marketing perspective, when we work in this collaborative model, we get to benefit from leapfrogging each other. We don't need to relearn and reinvent the way to do different parts of our business and marketing, because we're able to learn from the people who came before us when we tap into what is available in terms of that community and collaborative network as well, which is
absolutely, like it took me a decade to learn how to put together an e-course, and it took me 3 hours to teach it to somebody. And now there's a whole profession making e-courses because I was able to just
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never seen someone ask, like in a Facebook community or something, like, which is, how do I blah, 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 which is better, PayPal or Stripe, or whatever it might be. And people saying, I'm not going to tell you because then you'll be better at business than me, right? Like, we don't want to keep that information to ourselves. If we've bought the male chimp, right? So many people are like, wrestling with the chimp today. If we
a high five or a punch in the face for male chimp,
right? If we've been through that process and it took us 6 hours to work something out, we don't want don't wish it upon our, people in our
Totally.
community to have to go through that same thing. We want to save them from that. And we just create this amazing momentum within the industry, and it benefits everyone because we can, stand on the shoulders of those who've come before us, which is just so beautiful for us to see. Yeah.
And I think there's a permission that's granted when somebody has done it before you. It's like, oh,
Mm.
well, if that's okay by them, then I might be able to do that for my business as well.
Yeah. I have a client who's a kinesiologist, and she's been delivering her sessions online for years. And as soon as everything came about with COVID and everything like that, a lot of other kinesiologists are like look to her as a leader, because they'd been in this, like, oh no, I have to be in clinic with people in order to deliver it. But she gave them so much permission to, you can deliver this online. Let me show you how. And she's been so sought after and has helped dozens of other kinesiologists now deliver kinesiology sessions online. It's just been so wonderful to see those examples of learning and that permission that comes from someone else to say, it can be done, and I'll teach you how to do it as well.
And then it becomes a big ripple effect. And that's like one of my favorite things is, she gave herself permission to explore it herself. And it was a little while before that ripple effect. But then as soon as she gives permission to any other practitioner, then those practitioners then allow permission to their clients to receive that from them. And then it's just this...
It just becomes the new normal. And that's such a beautiful thing. I love it. Yeah, gorgeous. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about then is, because you mentioned business and mindset, what do you think are some of the most common mindset blocks that particularly practitioners face when moving into this online business delivery model? They become the marketer and the deliverer and all of those sorts of things. What comes up for people when they're moving in that space?
I'm not a tech type of person.
Yeah. Do you know what? I like, just a random thing. When I first started my business, in my job that I had just quit, I was the go-to tech person. And the minute I sat down in front of my computer and went, I have to build a business online, I was like, oh, I'm not a tech person. Like, all of a sudden, I went from feeling like the expert to feeling like a complete beginner.
Yeah. And it's a big one too. And because tech is touted as this thing that is, a magical wand that fixes everything and connects everybody instantaneously, we all expect it to be like that to work with it. And we don't expect to have the learning curve that we do with it.
Yeah.
And I think that we set one another up a little bit to fail sometimes, because, oh, MailChimp is wonderful, just give it a high five, when really you do want to punch it in the face sometimes. I think there's a level of honesty and vulnerability that happens. And there's a thing I talked to Denise about, who's been on your programs and stuff as well, is that there's an apprenticeship that happens. And when you're moving into an online space, it's an apprenticeship. You're learning new tools, learning a new language, learning some new things. You have to give yourself a bit of a grace period that, yeah, sure, you're not a tech person yet. Yeah, sure, you don't know it all yet. Yeah, sure, you're building an e-course. Don't have an e-course yet. But these are all things that are evolving and growing, and you do have to kind of do your apprenticeship before you become the master. And comparing your apprenticeship to somebody who's been doing it for a decade is not going to be helpful to you either.
No. Yeah.
I think there's that. And then one of the other ones that I see all the time is the resistance. Resist, persist. Anything that you resist is going to persist. So you can throw as many tantrums as you like and tell me all of the things that you can't do right now, but that's not going to change anything.
Love it.
So focusing on the one thing that you can do just starts to get that flow and momentum going. And yeah, sure, it might be actually giving up on MailChimp and moving over to MailerLite, or it might be sending out that email in the way that you can currently send out that email. But something will shift when you are able to do that one little thing that then allows you to go, oh, actually, I mastered that little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
I can take on the next autoresponder sequence. I can take on the next trying to write my copy for my next, Facebook ad. Oh, I can, they said boosting a post was a little bit weird. All right, I'll check out Ads Manager. I can do it.
Yeah.
There's something that changes when you take that one little next step.
It's so tangible and so practical. I love it. Okay, I've got a bigger one for you as well. And I'm going to use an example that I think a lot of people would connect with. And that is, for example, an EFT practitioner, right? A tapping practitioner. Well, between the Ortners and Brad Yates, they've got the world covered. They've got all the followers. Everybody knows them. Who am I to step into this space? There's no need for me in this industry. It's already taken
all been
care
said
of.
before.
It's all been said
covered.
before.
Why would they listen to the little old
How
man?
do we help people overcome this blockage?
So I will go back to my magnesium story. There is always going to be a nuance in the way that you bring your uniqueness to the fore. There is going to be all of your experiences prior to this, and just like you were saying, Tash, with you were the tech go-to person at your job. There's arms that we're leaving behind from our previous experiences, be it our personal experiences, our business experiences, our work experiences, be them you perceive them as positive or negative, something that was light and wonderful, or something that was one of the hardest things you've ever been through. That brings you a very unique space to talk from that Mr. Ortner doesn't have, and that needs to be heard by a specific set of ears in a specific way, and that might change their entire life. And if you don't show up with all of your arms and limbs and everything that came with you along for the ride, and in all of your vulnerability and in all of your, this was my first time on camera-ness, or this was my, I did just such a terrible job, and then keep going consistently and persistently, there's going to be one set of ears that is hearing and needs to hear it right then and there. And in the case that is EFT and natural health, those sets of ears can be in a really dark place. And if you're not talking to them in your particular way, they can't hear it from those other big names, because they're not speaking the same language that you will be for those ears. So and then it's only one set of ears that has one mouth that goes and talks to another set of ears and tells them to listen, and then it just gets bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. And, for me, some of my favorite EFT practitioners that I follow, they're still sharing like a Brad Yates video or a whatever, because they're all singing from the same song sheet. So you have these amazing industry leaders that are paving the way for you. And instead of seeing it as they've cleared the path and paved the way for you, you're seeing it as, well, they've taken all of the goodies and there's nothing left for the rest of us. So it's such a switch in perspective, I think. There's been this overwhelming need to somehow prove that you've got the most unique or the newest, or you have to be first to market, or you have to be the loudest, or you have to be the biggest. But particularly in the health practitioner space, it's just not true. And just because there's a famous doctor on TV that's giving out advice doesn't mean you don't go to your GP.
Totally.
Right? And just because there's, a tapping practitioner who's quite famous doesn't mean you don't go and work with your specific tapping practitioner when you've got particular, things that are coming up for you. So, I love that perspective. Thank you so much. This is great. All right. So I've got one last question before I ask my special sneaky question that I didn't tell you I was going to ask you at the end. But I've got one last question before that. And that would be, for someone who's listening along to this interview, who's really struggling with the business side. They just really want to help people. They want to be of service. They want to put these amazing tools in their toolkit to good use. What would be your advice to them to just get started?
So it kind of goes back to where I was at. I sat in a room all by myself. That's why I used it as an example right at the start of the interview. I sat in a room all by myself. I had all of these certificates up behind me on a wall saying how smart I was and how clever I was, and how many universities I'd been to, like literally collections of. And I still didn't have somebody to work with.
Yeah.
And I spent all my time researching more and more stuff about the human body. Like, even though I'd already had official pieces of paper saying I officially know about human bodies. Yeah. And it wasn't until I started to get into a conversation and get ears for and eyes for and a lens for understanding that business was a thing. Marketing is a thing that you can learn, a skill that you can learn, the same as palpating someone's body or teaching them how to do EFT or touching or empathizing with somebody. That's a skill you can actually learn. And so is marketing, and so is business. And the amazing thing is all of this stuff is available for free. You've got like an amazing 5-day challenge. I've got like the scavenger hunt. We've got all these really cool things that are there for free. And all you have to do is actually apply yourself in the same way that you would for a client that would be sitting in front of you in pain, because your business is kind of sitting in front of you in pain. And if you applied a free 5-day thing and went all out into it, and you actually took the actions that you require on the end of every one of your fast track days and actually did the work, you don't know what result you'll get until you actually do it. It's very nice to sit there and go, I think that marketing might be the thing I should do. I think that this will be a good idea. I'm not sure. It's all fine and dandy in your head until you actually do it. You don't know for certain. So my suggestion would be to do the thing that actually pops up into your reference range. So, here is a 5-day challenge from Tash. I want it, and you've got lots of them depending on your business or money or lots of different things. And the particular person, there's that quote, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The particular person that starts to come into your field that you hear on a podcast or you see in a group and you resonate with, there's a reason that you're resonating with them. Go and find out what they do. If they've got a free thing, go actually pour yourself into it and do it, and then see what result you get. And then the next step appears. I think it's really easy to think your way out of something. It's a very different thing to take the next inspired action to move you forward. I'm
gonna do a little out of the box thing. I've just been really called to do this right now.
Okay.
I want everyone who's listening along I want us all to just picture that beautiful Tammy sitting in her office on her own, continuing to study the human body when she knew she needed to get some clients. And I just want to send her so much gratitude and so much love, because she did it, right? Like, that Tammy then took the steps to learn how to grow her business. She built an amazing practice, and now she's in a position where she's helping others to do the same. And if that Tammy hadn't been brave and stepped into a whole new world, then we wouldn't have the Tammy who's sitting here in front of us. So I think everyone, if you can please, as you're listening along, just go and send huge gratitude to that version of Tammy and what she did, because you have been a trailblazer for your industry, and all the people who are listening along, they are going to be the trailblazers for the next batch as well. And that is what we're creating, is this amazing movement. I just think that little Tammy, oh my gosh, sitting in that office, and she took that leap and she decided to learn how to do this. And now she's helping other people do the same. And that is just so powerful.
That poor little Tammy had to stay awake until like 1 a.m. to watch her freebie things, because back in the day,
oh my gosh, instant tele seminar.
No one would do it in our time zones or anything.
No.
I'd be sitting there in my little, oh no. Okay, I'll just take this action.
Yeah. Beautiful. We are so grateful to you. That is so beautiful. Okay, so the last question I ask everyone on the Spotlight series is that if I was to quote you about something that we've discussed today, or something that you want everyone to hear from you, what would you like me to say?
Oh my goodness. I'm a big believer. I mean, I'm learning to fly helicopters, and I really feel like there are so many lessons in things that you are most fearful about, whether it is tech, whether it's taking that next step, whether it's pulling away from the computer or the textbooks and actually doing the webinar that you wanted to do, like, or whether it is turning a helicopter into wind and flying up really high, or turning the engine off and hoping that it'll come back on at the bottom of an emergency landing. you're not going to know until you do it.
Yeah.
And so you need to feel the fear, because it's scary as. Even like signing up for something free, program or something, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel the fear, and you're not going to know, like, you're viscerally not going to know unless you cut the engine and see if it comes back on again. And yeah, it's the same.
I've got the sweats thinking about that. I love it. Yeah, it's that, like, the scary thing. That's the thing. That's the thing.
It's totally the thing.
The
thing that gives you the jiggles is the thing that is pushing you right up against the edge of your comfort zone, and that's why you're jiggling so much, because you haven't been there.
Yeah.
And you can either contract back in and stay the same with the same old results, or you can jiggle your way through it, feel the fear, do it anyway, and there'll be something on the other side of it. No one can tell you what that is until you go through it yourself.
Beautiful. Okay, speaking of freebies, you've got a freebie that people can jump in and grab.
Yeah, there's a massive shift in the online space for practitioners in particular. So if anyone is a practitioner who's listening, we've got a checklist that's specific for you guys to be able to run your online consultations. That is best practice for everybody, and it's super easy, and you can download it at my website.
Excellent. We'll make sure that we get the link to that in the show notes of today's episode. So make sure you come over to tashcorbin.com, and we'll have the link to grab Tammy's amazing free checklist in the show notes of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Spotlight series from me and the fabulous Tammy Guest. Until next time, we cannot wait to see you shine. Thanks so much, Tammy.
Thanks, Tash.
See you, everyone.
Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.